257th Contact. 3rd February 1997, 12:03 a.m. Billy says. Now here are the pages of the article. I'd be interested whether you have yet some statements or remarks to make about it that I could use to expand on, or whether I should leave it all as is. However, I don't find an expansion absolutely necessary, but if you recommend it, then I'd be happy to do this. But now read first one time, and if you think that it requires yet further explanation, then tell me. Extraterrestrials. I am often asked whether then only the Pleiadians/Blairean come to Earth as extraterrestrials. Naturally that is not the case, because there exists yet various other extraterrestrials, who fly into terrestrial airspace and can also often be observed. They are, in part, members of the Pleiadian/Blairean Federation, who cannot however be counted as foreigners who stem from planets and solar systems that have no state of affairs at all with the Pleiadian/Blairean and their Federation worlds. These foreign extraterrestrials come from the most different star systems, which as a rule, belong to our galaxy, respectively, the Milky Way, whereby however exceptions also exist, however only very few, in which the extraterrestrials stem from foreign, and millions of light-year distant, galaxies. There are, however, few like this to note, that they can only be spoken of as a rarity. In every case caution is recommended in relation to the extraterrestrials and contact with them as well as in relation to the observed UFOs, because for a long time not all of that which was said and asserted in this regard was correct. Deceptions can be present during the observations of UFOs, as well as the actual observation of extraterrestrial flying devices, etc. Thus, where dealing with such an observation, it is often very difficult to clear up. Yet it may be accepted that a certain small percentage of all observations actually lead back to extraterrestrial flying devices, which are seen in ever greater numbers around the world. The majority of the observations do not, however, correspond to reality, rather touch upon imaginations and such-like, that many times are only the consequence of certain science fiction films, etc., that would arouse the susceptible humans to fantasies through which they then see or experience imaginary things in the sky that have nothing to do with reality. And just these imaginations, that often extend to real vision, are very plentiful, but this should not prejudice the facts, and mean that all observations are of this kind, because there actually are still enough cases of UFO observations that undoubtedly rest upon such really occurring extraterrestrial, and partly also other dimensional, flying devices which have nothing to do with the Pleiadian/Blairean, and their confederates, rather they belong to other worlds and civilizations. Kagui's note, what is real vision? Regarding the contacts with extraterrestrials, the circumstances are partly the same as with the UFO observations, in the form that a fantasy is called forth, because actually any contact with extraterrestrials occurs only in the most exceedingly rare cases, and as a rule also only in an unintended form. Intentional extraterrestrial contact with Earth humans would normally be taken up only most rarely, whereby the so-called examination contacts predominate, whereby the Earth humans would be abducted for examinations, respectively, analyses, and hauled into spaceships. However, those examination contacts have nothing to do with the mass hysteria of the alleged abductions, through which they would inflict pain or steal sperm or the fruit of the wombs from abductees, to breed a new species of human, etc. Many times these mass hysterias rest upon certain phobias under which the allegedly abducted ones suffer, as well as sleep paralysis, visions and real vision, etc., that convey an impression to the beset humans that they have or have had an actual experience. But there are still all of those who assert that they maintain physical or telepathic contact with extraterrestrials, mostly connected with religio-sectarian delusional teachings and assertions that withstand no reason. But in this matter it is exactly these religious delusional teachings and assertions from which very many humans feel addressed and which these contactees believe, who in truth are either prophet-obsessed deceivers, flipped-out sectarian fanatics or simple charlatans, who, altogether however, lead their believers around by the nose. Thereby not to be forgotten at any rate are the chronically delusional who suffer from some form of schizophrenia or simply imagination. Therefore the greatest caution is recommended with extraterrestrial contacts in the sky, because too much about this are lies, deception, swindle, charlatanism and speculation, etc., whereby also the truth-despicing efforts and falsifications as well as disinformation machinations of the governments are implicated through the committal and establishment of unbelievable lies, slanders, falsifications and trickeries in the world to veil the truth, to contradict and to deny. The Roswell UFO crash is just one of many inglorious examples. Naturally not all terrestrial governments and military work in this slimy way, but there are many. And they get ever more difficulty from those peoples who are really interested in the UFO clarification and the events connected therewith, as they turn the heat up under the governments, the military and the secret services. The time namely presses ever more, because ever more UFO incidents take place and also pure UFO observations increase ever further. So the responsible ones use their lies, defamation and denial ever less, whereby they apply a new obscuring technique to keep secret the actual existence of extraterrestrials, as well as their visits to Earth. Their new method is to demonize everything that has to do with UFOs and extraterrestrials. That, thereby, also serves to hinder the coming about of contact with extraterrestrials and civilians, because that can no longer be controlled and because, as a rule, civilians who are not bound by a military or secret service security status do not shy away from making such experiences and events openly known. But such open information is exceedingly uncomfortable and even exceedingly dangerous for the governments as well as for the military and secret services, etc., as their power structures could become shaky. Of this it was already clear to a whole lineup of authorities as well as their military and secret services in the First World War because, over the battlefields of Europe UFOs were observed whose appearance was however kept secret. It went the same way in the Second World War, as the Foo Fighters surfaced everywhere. Indeed, it was already firmly established by the military and secret services and highest government positions by the First and Second World Wars that UFOs were of extraterrestrial origin, yet the secrecy was still maintained.